Is that right? It's not
Yes.
even telling me that though.
So it just gave me a notification.
Oh, there it is. Just takes a few seconds for it to come through. So greetings, pilgrims, and okay, I got to bring up my chat. I still don't know how to do that efficiently yet when I use OBS. So let me do that. There it is. I got to turn off my volume, which is already off, and then I've got to make the chat into a live chat. Then break out the chat window.
Say something.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me? I didn't put on my microphone, a better microphone. I usually should do that, right?
I can barely hear you.
Yeah, I better.
Well, say something else.
Hello, hello. I'm here.
Okay, now I can hear you.
So it's good, you think?
Yeah, you're fine.
All right, folks. I'm not going to hook up my better microphone. I
I don't think you need it.
forgot to do it. Hello, Kobe. Old school Dave. Greetings. Actually, have something besides driving home in those dark videos to talk about using OBS this time so that I can put some pictures on the screen because we've got I believe, a significant series of events about to happen here in April.
You didn't say hello to me.
Oh, I didn't say, well, there you are. Kathy Southwestern Colors is here. Hi, Kathy Southwestern Colors.
Hello.
Where are you these days?
Mm.
She's right. If you don't know it, she's right next to me. Um, there she is. There's a hand. We got a hand.
With
Give us
interesting
a
blue
hand. Give
nails.
us a hand. Yeah, she does she does coloring live streams where she picks different pages from a variety of coloring books that are for adult coloring. You know, I mean, kids can do it too, but I mean, this is like it's an art form in itself, of course. That people like Kathy have learned to do, and shading and working with different colors and making works of art. So she has that channel if anybody wants to visit it and see what she does with her live streams. And sometimes I chime in there, and, talk a little bit, but
He
nothing,
coughs and slurps in the
nothing serious.
background.
Yeah, right. Nothing serious. But so a day or two ago, I became aware of these two events from I think Mr. B, his channel. I follow his channel all the time on YouTube, and I've followed him for years. And he's developed his channel really well, and to where he covers a lot of things that are happening in outer space with comets or eclipses and other events. And then he deals with a lot of the things that are reported on space.com and spaceweather.com, which I've been following those sites before I was following Mr. B for many years, actually. I mean, many, 15 years. or so, and they've been developing as well. Like there was a time when there were no near miss asteroids known, but sometime after 2000, there was occasionally an asteroid that would come by that was so close that it was actually within the moon's orbit. And so they judge that as now they treat asteroids that they're tracking, and they give you a chart on spaceweather.com that shows you the lunar distance away that the asteroid is planned to be at on any given date, and they highlight the ones that are really close, and a lot of them are very small. Like there's one that was 0 lunar distance away from the Earth a few days ago, but it was only 1 meter in diameter. So it's like a yard, right? And so that's pretty darn small. So that probably just burned up in the atmosphere. But then there's other ones that are big, and to where if they did hit the Earth, they would cause an explosion, and anybody that got hit would, of course, be affected by it. And so they've been tracking them, and uh, and that's what this broadcast isn't about them. But it's interesting that Space Weather then started a chart, and that wasn't heard of, 15 years ago or more. So they started tracking them on a regular basis, then posting the tracking. So that's like a new development with all the other new developments that are happening in that have been happening in outer space, with all the images that Scott Waring was posting that were by the SOHO satellite that was trained, had cameras. LASCO camera was trained on the sun 24/7, and that anybody could actually tune into that camera and watch what was happening in the sun's corona. And the way they do that is by they have an arm uh, that's on that satellite that's got the cameras trained on the sun. And at the end of that arm, at a certain location, they have like a black disc. And so when they when that arm is in the exact right space for that camera view of the sun, it's actually blocking out the sun's rays, because otherwise you wouldn't see anything but the sun's rays. Okay, and it would just look like a ball of. So they put filters on it also, so that you can see different color aspects of the sun's fury. With all its nuclear fission explosions that are happening there, and uh, and so by putting that black object in front of the camera, then you can see what's actually on the outside part of the sun. Now you can't see with the eye without that blocking out of the rays. And Scott Waring had a channel for a long time, and I think he moved to a South American country. Uh, I don't remember where exactly. And he continued to do some broadcasts, and then he was shut down by somebody. But he had posted a lot of things that he was also taking pictures of these views and all these objects that were in the sun. I mean, we don't know what they were, of course. I say objects, but they're almost like the sun was a canvas, and you'd see images that look like flying saucers and big long worms, like a worm uh, kind of things and all kinds of shapes. And some of the shapes were geometric, and I have all those pictures, and I used to post them there's probably some live streams that show them, on my, if you look at my thumbnails, but I'll do them again one day. But this broadcast right now, I wanted to focus on the April 8th, 2024 total solar eclipse over the US. Now, to me, it's got, and also plus the large volcanic devil's comet. That's what they're calling it. 12P Pons Brooks, which they say is of the family of the Halley's comets. And because of its, what they're saying, the orbit is between 70 and 100 and something years. And that they've got a category for comets that have that kind of orbit. And so they're saying that this comet that is called Pons Brooks, I'll probably just say Pons for short, but is the return of that comet that I think was first discovered in, I forgot the year. I'm not going to go to the article right now and talk all about that. You guys can look it up and you get all the details on the comet. But I thought it was very interesting that it was called a volcanic comet. I never heard them call a comet a volcanic comet before. And the reason they're calling it that is because of all the brightenings that it did. Now, this was discovered when it got brighter in July of 2023. And you can see in the bottom right of my screen there's 6 different photographs. I think it's 6. Yeah, of the different dates in November. But the first sighting was the picture in the middle beneath the red lettering, that they're calling it a devil's comet. It's hard to see, but because it's like got 2 horns. If you actually look at the image of the halo this comet is making, it's got, like it's got 2 horns. I guess that's what they're calling it. I wouldn't call it a horn, but it's interesting how they come up with these terms, because the devil is known to be, uh, we're talking about, right, Lucifer and the fallen angel souls, and the also termed the space aliens, the ones that rebelled against the next level and then were separated from the next level of membership and given opportunities to return to service and didn't take them. So the next level decided to start the civilization by exposing souls that were of some equivalent development with those that were called the space aliens that were coming from different planets. The next level was drawing them to the earth so that souls could be subject to their influence on earth, by those souls coming by spacecrafts, that the next level drew here, and then gave them a task to do, to choose if they wanted to do the task, and some didn't choose to do the task, but the ones that did choose to do the task were then um, helped by the next level to pick human vehicles, uh, in the early 1900s or mid 1900s, or even, you know, who knows exactly when, those picking of vehicles took place. It might have even took place in 1994. And, there's no rhyme, no reason. I mean, that I can figure out, because we just don't know. It's the next level that's doing that task of picking vehicles for souls to have the option to wake up those vehicles to consciously become aware of what those souls already have known. from previous experiences with older members in human vehicles, like Jesus, for instance, or Elijah, and or Moses, and or Enoch, and or Adam, to start off the experiment of subjecting souls to a rigorous training program to where they would uh, be potentially graduated into membership in the next level, which means being part of a many membered kingdom that who have laboratories that could be thought of as spacecrafts that can be as big as the planet, and you could have a laboratory inside of it. And one example of a potential laboratory in space that Tiendo wrote about in their first movie script was Pluto. They weren't saying that it was a laboratory, but they were saying using it to illustrate that the next level has laboratories inside of what humans would call a planet or whatever they want to call it. Because the next level doesn't want humans to see everything they do, and there's a number of reasons probably for that that I don't know about, but I think the number one reason is that our vehicles and our eyes can be tricked, and the space aliens can try do try to be the creators, be from the next level. They don't call it the next level, but they give humans the ideas that they are the ones that created the Earth and the life forms on it. And that's why you have people nowadays talking about, oh, the space aliens are the Elohim. Well, it's a distortion because the Elohim are depicted in some of that those record books, like the Book of Genesis, and that was attributed to Moses writing for the most part, and uh, and so they're trying to take the place of the space aliens are trying to take the place of the next level members, the older members and the younger members and students and everything by appealing to humans, by abducting humans, by giving humans contact experiences, even physically, showing themselves to humans like Billy Meyer and Adamski and all the other, Betty and Barney Hill taken on board a spacecraft and and
That
anyway, so
guy from
that's
White Sands.
what was that
That guy from White Sands.
White Sands, David Fry or Daniel Fry was his name, right,
And
from White
Brad
Sands Missile
Steiger
Base.
too. Wasn't Steiger taken?
I don't know, Brad Steiger, was he?
Wasn't, or who's that one guy that you guys talked about?
Oh,
Chagall?
Chagall, uh, Lee Chagall, Chagall, Chagall. I don't know if he might still be alive. Uh, I did meet him one time on the set of Geraldo when Geraldo was doing a UFO set, and I had just been talking about Heaven's Gate for years, and not for years. I mean, since when they left, it was months that I was talking about them with the media, uh, trying to reveal what I understood the truth to be about who they were and what they were here for and what they were doing. And so Geraldo found out about that through my participation with the 60 Minutes broadcast and Larry King Live and other things I was doing. And so Geraldo invited, Geraldo's people invited me to be on the panel of about 10 other individuals or nine or so individuals that were all had their little thing to say about UFOs. And I didn't say much, but I had a little bit to say. And that's just the history of Lee Chargal, who told me at behind the scenes and behind the stage uh, prior to the event that he had met Doe and that Doe was working a job as uh, um, a janitor, right? And and then he talked with Doe quite a bit, and then um, I found out that after I had left the group, that Juan Odie, who is still in his vehicle and he lives in Venezuela, he he was given a task by Doe to meet with Lee Shargal at I think a Las Vegas UFO symposium of some sort, and then different class members were given the task to follow up with Wanodi on getting a report of that meeting, and you can hear that.
The
Well, maybe
last
you can
tape
hear
they
it.
have available.
Yeah, it's on tape number 929 by the one method of counting, which Wanodi actually sent us, sent a number of individuals, including myself and Carloti. And anyway, so moving on. So those individuals that were, now I'm not saying that Lee Shargal was contacted by the next level. I don't know whether that was a chance meeting of some sort or what it was, but at the time, Lee Shargal was talking about how there was a group of people that believed in Tiando that would be gathering in the Southwest, and there was some fear at the time that they were going to all, um, commit, lay down their vehicles, take their, leave their this world by their own hands. And I don't want to use the word, the S word, because sometimes it might get flagged in the future. Not that I'm afraid of using that word. I'm not, but I try to stay away from a number of things actually that I don't really want to get flagged by the bots that go through these broadcasts and put them into words and then search for keywords that they can use to threaten my channel, or you just take down the videos if I say something that's against some community guideline that they've come up with, which they have done. They've taken down some of my videos already, and not because of anything offensive, but because of talking about certain medical treatments and things like that, and talking about 9/11 in certain ways. Oh, I'm not supposed to say 9/11, but I don't know. It's too late for that. But so those are the kind of things that they've taken down already from my channel. So I don't know
Move
how long it
on.
takes them to get to things, but I've
It
said
takes
those
them a
words
while, it
before.
seems like.
Yeah, it does seem like they have a lot to go through. So it might be, a year from now, but by the time they take it down. So I hope that doesn't happen. But anyway, I wanted to focus on, of course, I get off the track all the time, which I don't think is a bad thing because, there's a lot of side issues to talk about. Um, but the way they frame this comet, it came to light because it got really bright, and they thought that it was the first time in 69 years or so in July of 2023 that it got that bright. So it's got a 70 or 71-year orbit, they say. Of course, the way they judge that is by the measuring the arc that it makes. Because I don't think they have, maybe they have some kind of way to use a spectrograph and, actually look at aspects of what the comet's nucleus is, and by using different colors that the comets put out, because there are different colors coming out of these comets. It's not white light. It, And so the spectrograph can kind of give them an idea of how big the nucleus is. And that plus other things, I think, become what they use to determine if this is a comet that's repeating itself. And of course, they're guessing, I think, to some degree. They may be right. I'm not saying they're not. Like with Halley's Comet, it may be correct that it's once every 78 years, I think it is. But if it is 70 years for this one, or 71 years, because we don't need to be, totally, whatever you want to call it, religiously or spiritually correct, or even, to try to match different prophecies by, having it be 70. And because I think in the book of Daniel, there's talk about 70 years, something happening. But it might be. I didn't go so far in this broadcast to get ready to do a full, representation of what the meaning of these things might be and whether they are being talked about in prophecy. Uh, it's possible. I'm just going to say that. And I'm not a doomsdayer, but Doe said that there was going to be a recycling whenever that happens, and we don't know when that's going to happen. It could be 100 years from now, or more than that, or less than that. There's no numbers that we can come up with that can be accurate because the next level might not even know exactly when uh, they're going to do it. They may have an outside idea of um, when they want to do it, or an inside idea. There might be a range of time when they would think that, okay, enough is enough. We've given humans plenty of opportunity to pay attention to the representatives that we sent, T and Do and crew, because they were also representing the next level. And so now people have made up their minds enough to where we don't really have a reason to continue this civilization the way it is. And at that point, then we probably won't be talking here very long. Even if it happens way before that we're not able to talk here, I don't know what's going to happen. Uh, but the next level gives us clues. I mean, they give us clues for hundreds and thousands of years. Right from the beginning, they kind of give us clues, of what the graduation looks like. And T said in 1973, which or 4 or 5, I'm not sure exactly when she said it, which was in the book UFO Missionaries Extraordinary, written by Hayden Hughes and Brad Steiger, which was about T and Do. T and Do weren't totally happy with it, but we had it in the classroom. We had a bunch of copies of it, but we never used it as study material. But it had documents in it that were interesting. And in one of those documents at the bottom, at the end of that book, that T and Do wrote, uh, T went through the progress of this civilization with Adam, saying that the same soul that did the task of Adam and Enoch and Moses and Elijah and Jesus was back to finish the task as Do. And uh, in the vehicle that became known as Bo first, in the vehicle that was named Applewhite, Marshall Applewhite. And that T came to assist him with finishing the task, which and then she left, which was part of the plan, but they didn't know that part of the plan ahead of time, even though there's indications of it in the book of Revelation in chapter 12 that the woman is swallowed by the earth. And and to me, when I looked up that the wording in that paragraph towards the end of chapter 12, um, it took me back to saying that was a saying that they had for somebody going into the grave, going into the earth. The earth swallows you up. Okay, so when I saw that, which was after I was in the classroom, because I didn't study hardly at all any scripture or the records uh, before I left. So when I saw that, I thought, okay, well, this whole chapter actually shows a lot of different parallels with things that happened in the classroom, as well as chapter 11 talking about the two witnesses. And those are both two big indications of two coming. And so when they were talking about these horns, I was thinking they're not horns, uh, but in a sense they are because the meaning of horns biblically is military. And the next level has their own military. It's not like the humans have it, but they come and when it's time to recycle, they take out of the land all the individuals that they want to save. I'm not saying vehicles necessarily because they don't really have a use for vehicles, but they could. They have the option to transport humans on board their spacecrafts. They can do like a Noah's Ark kind of thing themselves if they want to, or they can. Who knows what they can do? Okay, we're not the judges of what they do with that, but the fact that they do come in and take the cream of the crop, being all the souls that uh, and spirits potentially that are growing by their perspective, and that's a fact as far as I'm concerned. And and there's certain things that we can actually know. I know that it's easy to say that I know this and know that. And that's a lot of people say that kind of thing, and I try not to say it unless I feel like I know it, but I can't prove why I know it, and it doesn't really matter to me if somebody else recognizes that I know it or not. But if they um if they absorb and draw in the mind from the next level, from Tiendo's minds, and the students that were writing things in the book, because that's the way you draw from them is by looking at their material. I mean, you also can draw from them uh, um, by asking them for service and then looking for help on how to do that service. And one of the helps that you're going to get for sure is study what we wrote, study what we said, listen to the audio tapes, watch the videos, watch them over and over again, and read the Beyond Human series transcripts in the book, because sometimes you get something better out of it when you're reading it.
I wouldn't say better.
Right, not better necessarily, but you can get additional perspectives
Definitely.
and understanding, right? Because Kathy
Definitely.
did that, and I did it too, and I also got different perspectives, not different, but better perspectives by every which way we come at the material and look at it. Uh, there's something to be learned all the time, and there's enough material available so that nobody is being held back. Okay, it doesn't. I mean, I think it matters that we have everything available to us that they left behind. But if it doesn't happen, I don't think any of us are really going to be shorted because the bottom lines are all in the Heaven's Gate book and uh, and the videotapes, the Beyond Human series, and the exit videos, and uh, and so when it comes to the other documents that weren't in the Heaven's Gate book, they have their value, and Riccoti was given to post some of those on his website when he had Riccoti.com, which uh, Mark and Sarah had taken down. Um,
Yay, Mark and Sarah.
yeah,
Good job.
when Riccoti left, he left that website to his daughter to manage, and so like days after he actually exited it by his own hand,
9 days.
9 days later, they sued the Right to Know, which was Riccoti's organization that Doe gave him the approval of forming, uh, and he had a website that was Right to Know as well, and he made a website called Riccoti.com, and he started copying tapes, audio tapes, and videotapes that some of the videotapes he was given by Doe directly before they left,
9 days.
and and then the audio tapes he got out of storage. He was copying them and then making them into digital media, and then he was sending them out on CDs for free, everything.
And Carlotti was assisting with that.
Right, Carlotti was assisting with that, and so Carlotti has the firsthand experience with everything Riccoti was doing at that time, and
He was right there.
and Wanoti was aware of a lot of this also, and so anyway, but so the information is available. Uh, I mean, Riccoti sent me Riccoti.com, so I have it also on the CDs. And on Riccoti.com, he had a lot of the images that, like some of them from Mallory's paintings of the older member picture, and Kathy and I and Carlotti are being sued for use of that older member image, like right here. But we're not selling this, so I don't, we own it, and this is Alodi's image that Mark and Sarah then copyrighted,
Hijacked.
even though Alodi had copyrighted it years before that. They probably didn't know about, but it's very available now. Those copyright information, and we're using that as part of the defense against the lawsuit that Mark and Sarah have filed against us over a year and a half ago or thereabouts. Anyway, so getting on from that,
It'll be 2 years in May.
2 years in May, right? So so in that book, UFO Missionaries Extraordinary, T said that all the events of the Book of Revelations would come to pass. Now, Doe also said years later that um, that some of the things talked about in the Book of Revelation, John was not able to write down accurately, and he used the example of the 1,000 years in I think of Revelation 20, where Lucifer is supposed to be locked up for a period of time and then released again. And he said that happened already. Doe felt like that already happened. So it did, because Revelation 20, it doesn't necessarily, it does go somewhat related to the numbers of the chapters. There is like an order of things, but there's a lot of duplicate views of the same time period in there throughout. In my book, I tried to outline how the different chapters kind of seem to relate to one another. But anyway, but Revelation 20 does seem to indicate that it's after the two witnesses have left, which is talked about in Revelation 11, right? And there's still things that happen after they leave. And one of the things that happens after they leave is the sounding of the seventh trumpet. I'm not saying that it happened when they left, but I think that their final departure was that trumpet. um, uh, that started that trumpet sounding. In other words, trumpet meant reverberation, which has to do with uh, a sounding of the information. The truth is being revealed. That's what the revelation means. It's the apocalypse means the revealing time period uh, when things are being revealed, and so One of the events that's talked about in Revelation 6 is that the sun is becomes sackcloth of hair, darkened. And I don't know if that's, uh, you know, a solar eclipse, because what happens during a solar eclipse is that you don't see sunlight. It becomes dark on the land. But I don't think but that doesn't seem to be the same thing. I was talking with Kathy about it earlier, and she thought it meant something else. And I can agree with that, actually. Not that it's something to be yes or no about. It's like, uh, it doesn't really matter if it's what's being depicted there. It's eclipses are known to be uh, um, illustrative of uh, a major event, as well as or major a beginning of major events or changes and things. And sure, there's been a lot of them that happen every year. There's all kinds of eclipses, right? So they all portend to some events. And, well, I don't know, maybe not. But it doesn't mean that the next level wouldn't choose to use them as a signal, because like the festivals in the Old Testament were a lot of times based on different phases of the sun and the moon, right? On their timing, jubilees and things. And I don't know a whole lot about that. We did study it in the classroom a little bit. After T left, Doe went through a lot of different things, uh, considering whether to have another public offering, since the public offering stopped in 1976. And then after T left, Doe felt like he had instructions to examine whether there was to be another public offering, well, approximately 1987, and to actually take the position of being the same individual that was called Jesus 2,000 years ago, not the vehicle named Jesus. So he wasn't going to ever come back with that vehicle, according to the records. But the same older member, that soul that was doing that task of Jesus, was back. And that's why we had posters that you can see in the Heaven's Gate book that said, He's back, we're back, and we referring to the disciples of Jesus. Now I'm not including myself in that, because I don't know where I am in that. And Tiendo didn't care about, because early on in the classroom there were individuals in the classroom that ended up dropping out, that uh, maybe all of them that I knew about, that were talking about who they were in during the Jesus time, and Tiendo never approved of building your ego up by thinking you're somebody important in the Bible, in the past, in an incarnation, because even if you were, when I say you, meaning um, uh, your soul, you know, um, that doesn't die with the vehicle, or if you were like an ancestor, or if you were from the mind strain that was being continued during that time with Jesus and his disciples, and became a believer at that point, even if you were an identity during that time, uh, it's what you do now that's the only thing that's important in this lifetime. Um, so like, past life regressions are not accurate necessarily, and even if they are, by tuning into somebody in the past life, you're also potentially tuning into their influences and their weaknesses that they had when they were, whether you were a part of that vehicle in the past or not. You're drawing that to you, so that uh, if you even learned lessons after that, you would have to go back and maybe learn those lessons again. Uh, and it could be, and then you can also build up your ego to where you think you're like, a big teacher of some sort and going around and you need disciples and, you can form your own little groups. And there's a lot of people that have done that kind of thing over the years. They don't always talk about it openly, but if you look up like all the people that claim to be the return of Jesus, you can look in. I think Wikipedia probably has a page for it. Well, I think they do because I think I looked into it myself, and there's a whole bunch of people. I mean, there's probably hundreds over the years that said they were Jesus, even though Jesus said that. Don't believe anybody that comes back and says that I'm Jesus. So what do they do? Just ignore that? You know, uh, I don't know what they do, but they get tricked into it by the lower forces because the lower forces like to pretend to be members of the next level, like I was saying before. They like to pretend to be the Elohim. They like to pretend to be Jehovah and the Father and the Son and the two witnesses and Jesus return and Elijah return and Moses return. There's probably everyone in the Bible have some human that is saying that their return of somebody, Cleopatra, right? Uh, anyway, so uh, anybody that gives you that kind of idea about yourself or somebody else, forget about it. Just block it because it's worthless to focus on it. Anyway, and so moving on from that, the fact that this Mr. B from YouTube actually said during his broadcast that I watched a few days ago that April 8th there was going to be two events. One of them was going to be this total solar eclipse over the U.S. that kind of takes a pathway of the penumbra from Texas, kind of south central Texas, to it looks like it goes up to New Hampshire or Maine, okay, thereabouts, and uh, and so it was, uh, and at the same time, in the same day, I think there might be a day or two that might be different because also the comet was supposed to come to closest point to the sun
For helium?
for helium.
Is that what it's called?
Pons, it's called Pons Brooks.
No, the the for helium is the closest that it's
Oh,
considered.
perihelion. Yes, perihelion. Maybe they got that HIEL as being related to helium because they say the sun operates has a lot of helium 3 in it or something like that. I don't know
Hmm.
exactly, but which they can figure things out by spectrographs, colors of elements, and so they can get some pretty accurate information probably from that. But then again, we don't know what the next level, how they limit humans in some ways. But uh, so yeah, the perihelion, closest point to the sun, is I think on April 8th as well. And when those two dates came together, I thought, whoa, that's a comet coming together. It's a new kind of comet because it's got a volcanic response, and it seems to have a halo with it and two tails, like that middle thing. It's like a spacecraft, like looks like a stingray kind of thing, by the appearance of the halo around it. And so this is an unusual object of some sort.
What are the other two events?
Um, I said there were two events.
No, I'm saying there's two other events that are happening around the same time. April 6th, what event is going on then?
Oh, well, do we want to talk about that?
We're not saying
Oh,
what the venue
yeah.
is.
We before we even knew about this, we were having a meeting, public meeting in a city, You can?
Yes.
No, I don't want
We're
to put
not
at
doing
jeopardy anybody.
anything.
I know we're not, but they might go after the person anyway. They might figure it out and go after the person, and then uh, and just assume that they're doing something wrong,
Well, it's
even though
gonna
we're not
be
going to be doing anything against any copyrights.
no.
But
Well, yes, we're having a meeting April 6th.
April 6th, and
And
we'll
then
tell
April
you ahead.
7th, and then April 7th.
We'll tell you ahead of time that it's in. How about if we say at this point that it's in the southeast United States? Okay, and we're gonna have more than one event in the southeast United States, um, and the other one's gonna be before that actually, right?
Yeah. And I think it's safe to talk about that one
Yeah,
because
because they're already, uh,
they've done the deal and
yeah, they already disassociated with uh, making anything that Mark and Sarah could find fault with in terms of, so-called alleged infringements of copyrights, because their copyrights are in question, big question. But we can't actually prove that in a court of law until we go through the rest of this lawsuit. So,
which is happening.
so before that happens, then the only ones that are in danger of being sued probably are me and Kathy and Carlotti, because there's a lot of people that are so-called infringing on their copyrights, their alleged copyrights, that they don't seem to care about because they probably don't want to spend the money on issuing all the cease and desist that they would need to do, and then being up against maybe a big corporation that would take them to task.
But anyway, so April 6th is the event, the
Right,
meeting, and then April 7th is my 50th birthday.
right. And a 50th birthday to me is kind of a interesting time period as well because of how
I'm half a century
it was.
old.
I'm not saying there's any significance to Kathy's birthday, but since it's happening like that, uh, it may be that her vehicle was planned to be used uh, in the next level. I mean, my vehicle's mother's birthday was March 23rd, and she actually met a man after my dad had died uh, many years later through the church, who had the same birthday but a different year as my mother, March 23rd.
Hmm.
And or was it the 26th? I might be getting that mixed
I
up.
don't
Sometimes I
know.
get dates mixed up, but it was one of those dates. Anyway, so, um, but 50 years was interesting to me because of how the crash at Roswell, or the plains of San Augustine, which is not that close to Roswell. I mean, it's like 100 miles away or so from it, I think. But that happened in July of, I think it was July 1st of 1947. And so 50 years later, give or take some weeks or a month, whatever, a couple months, um, the class left. And 50 years before 1947 was 1897. And that's when there was the Aurora crash was recorded. And I don't remember T and Doe ever talking about that. So I don't know what they think about that. But there was one body in that, and I used to think about it as maybe that was like a John the Baptist kind of thing, of a member of the next level student member or something doing a task of kind of setting it up for this crash happening that had some interesting aspects to it. Anyway, but that was 50 years before that. And then 50 years before that, around 1847, is approximately the time of a UFO flap in the United States. And then 50 years before that the turn of the 19th century. Well, it's actually, I think, more of the beginning of the 19th century. So it might not be an exact 50 years, but I don't know when things actually started. There was another UFO flap. And before that, there was no records of like a UFO flap. And I say UFO, I'm talking about spacecrafts. I'm not talking about space aliens. I'm talking about next level spacecrafts. Although the space aliens also have spacecrafts, but they're primitive spacecrafts compared to the next level. And they, I don't know at what point they were allowed to circulate among humans, because if you look at Revelation 11, it says that the bottomless pit was opened up so that they could come out and influence humans. And that might be talking about that they were literally not allowed to leave their underground hiding places, whether it was under the sea or in a cave under the sea or under Antarctica or wherever it was. There could be a number of places where it could be, where they could have hiding places where their spacecrafts could be operating fine because of the power system that was given to them from the next level that might last who knows how long. You know, that might be that element that Bush wanted to go find in by having colonies on the moon and Mars that he talked about, George W. Bush. And what Bob Lazar talked about was the driver of the engine that they removed from one of the crashed spacecraft or one of the spacecrafts that was given to the military in exchange for the military not trying to apprehend them and prevent them from abducting humans. Apparently, the military, according to the story, agreed to not interfere with their abduction of humans so that they could get technology from the aliens. And even though the aliens, Doe said, probably didn't follow through much with the humans, uh, Doe did say that he felt like the aliens did some facsimile crashes as well. So all the crashes that were recorded, and there's been a lot. I mean, uh, I mean, there was like as many as like 110 bodies attributed to, I don't know, 30 or 40 crashes. There was one in South Africa, and there was one in Bentwater, England. That maybe it wasn't. Maybe that was just the Bentwater incident. I don't remember exactly if that was related to a crash, but there was a spacecraft on the ground that people from the military uh, in England were examining, and things like that were happening. And I don't think those are next level crafts. Or now some of the dead vehicles, you know, uh, might have been space alien vehicles, um, but that might have been those vehicles might have been grown by the next level when they became members of the next level, for all we know, or they could have been dead already and they were just put in uh, that spacecraft that they crashed to try to mimic the next level, to try to make the humans think that they were all the same, that some of the crashes were staged by um, Tiendo's crew in order to give humans some evidence of otherworldly beings and technology that's been hidden for all these years. And now people talk about it as if this is like new information coming out, with Grosh and everything else that's been happening with Al Greer, what's his name, Stephen Greer, and for years with the Disclosure Project and all that. That's it's interesting that that's all coming out to where now it's talked about pretty openly by a number of different YouTube channels that are essentially close to mainstream but aren't reporting exactly what the mainstream won't report much about this at all. I mean, but you'll hear ads like on Fox News or the Fox channel on the radio, you'll hear ads for talking about space aliens and UFOs and things like that. Where even a year ago, I don't remember hearing any kind of ads like that. And I was listening to Fox News on a regular basis when we were living in Cincinnati area because I was always interested in the talk radio and the 24-hour news stations because then you can get at least one perspective, and usually you can get more than one. And then of course I would listen to NPR as well and anything I could get. I was even listening to Al Sharpton's channel, which was a frustrating experience to some degree, but all of them are frustrating experiences to some degree. So I'm not singling out Al Sharpton, uh, but anyway, so the 6th, 7th, and then the 8th, uh, as well as March 23rd, are all for us significant dates. I'm not saying that the world's going to end at that point, but it is interesting to me that I'm going to put on the screen something else here. These articles here are just like the headlines. I hope you can read them.
We'll read them to them.
Yeah, I'll do that. One is the first one that came out, and this is from space.com, so you can go read it yourself, of course. And it says volcanic, and then in quotes, devil comet resprouts its horns after erupting again. I don't think it's an accident the way they're wording that. I think the next level gave them some ideas about it. I could be wrong. Doesn't really matter, but
I could be
it's interesting.
wrong.
And it's written by from somebody from livescience.com. Oh, I didn't go there. I should have probably went there. Maybe it'd be a little different. And it was published on November 11th. Okay. And then it says as the subheadline, the massive volcanic comet 12P slash Pons Brooks, which grows giant horns when it erupts, has exploded for a third time in 5 months as it continues to race towards the sun. Now, the other one that I've got the headline there on my screen.
So I guess it's not like actually a volcano on the comment. They're just using volcanic as an adjective.
Yeah, I guess maybe they don't know what it is exactly that's doing it, but it's apparently doing something different than before because I never heard them talk about a comet as volcanic. I don't think that's accidental. I mean, they may think it's accidental. Maybe they're just trying to be dramatic about it, you know.
Right.
Uh, but I mean, because
I like the icy volcanic saying.
yeah,
I want to see an ice volcano.
yeah, and that's what the second subheadline says on space.com, which was written
Oh, I'm
6 days
sorry.
later. Hmm?
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. And the title is Volcanic Devil Comet again erupts with its biggest blast yet as it races toward Earth. So one was racing towards the sun, the other one's talking about racing towards the Earth. Of course, it's gonna also make its closest approach to the Earth, I think, in June. So it's always a little bit after. Like Hal Bopp was like that too. It was closest to the Earth actually around the 26th, I think, or maybe it was early April when it was closest to the Earth. Or I might have those dates a little wrong. I don't remember exactly with the Hale Bopp, but the Hale Bopp had a sizable second tail that wasn't the same kind of tail that comet's display in their ion tail that's in the front of the comet before that's on the way towards the sun, which I never did understand that explanation, but I guess it has to do with the cosmic rays from the sun and how it affects the comet to where there's some reactions in the front of the comet as you know. I don't understand that yet, but anyway, so the subheadline says the icy volcanic comet 12P Pons Brooks, which is 3 times the size of Mount Everest, erupted again November 14th for the fourth time since July of 2023. So, so it erupted 6 times in November. But what they didn't tell you was that it had 2 eruptions before that November 5th eruption, which one was in July, which is that picture in the middle of my the middle of my screen, and then, as I understand it, and then the second one was on October 5th, which I thought was interesting considering what happened in Israel
Um,
October 5th. I mean, you know, you can make any date significant, right? By attaching an event to it, but you know, I just look at it and say, okay, you know, I don't know if there's some timing there. I mean, I can make a case for things happening on certain dates that the next level does things because the next level actually uh, they have an interest in certain things happening on this planet, and if they want to stimulate a war, that's part of the recycling for them to do that uh, because vehicles will have more trouble in their lives from that kind of experience. And when people have more trouble in their lives, they grow closer to God. They start talking to God more because they don't know where else to reach. And that's a positive to the next level because if they don't reach up to God, then they know that that individual with that spirit uh, may not be a soul or a spirit to save for a future opportunity. I'm not saying, you know, who is in what category. That's not for our judgment to make ever. But that is the way the next level. They're the creators of this planet and the life forms on it. So they own everything. And like the farmer that goes into the field and makes the harvest, all those wheat stalks end up dying, and you know the fruit is taken, and the fruit is you know put into the farmer's barn to feed the family, right? To feed the humans, and and the stalks and stuff are chopped up to feed the cows and the you know, livestock, whatever they have, or to be used as fertilizer or part of the fertilizer because everything's used. The next level also doesn't lose anything. If there's anybody that's got is growing in a way that's of use to the next level, and I don't mean use like you know, for food. That's another stupid thing that's been taught to some people that they think that the next level are actually a space alien group that are coming here to eat humans. And that's ridiculous. The next level doesn't need to eat human flesh. They don't they don't eat anything except those said that some of the vehicles might need to take a pill to sustain them once in a while.
well, those stories about aliens eating humans, I don't think they're about. I don't think anyone's saying that's the next level because people don't even know about it.
Right,
They're just saying that aliens in general.
right. But I don't think even the aliens are eating humans, even though
group of
right,
aliens out there that are.
right. We don't know, and there are cannibals. There are humans that you know grew up as their norm, eating humans, right? So it's not like that's out of the question. And the movie V talked about you know that they were treating the humans so nice, so that they can have them for food. So I mean, but the way but I think some of this comes as well, it's a little bit of a mockery of like Jesus saying, "You can eat my body and drink my blood." So and and a lot of people don't know how to think differently about the space aliens and the kingdom of God, the members of the next level, because they have a kink in their head, not a kink necessarily, but they haven't. Uh, I'm not sure what the reasons are, but for them, the idea that next level members are real and have physical bodies is very hard for them to comprehend or consider. They think of them as spirits that are floating around in clouds, and that when you die, you become one of them, and you have eternal life. And even people that don't believe in Jesus and Christianity, some of the people in the paranormal community I've communicated with, a lot of them. Well, I shouldn't say a lot, but enough to know that there is a thinking that they're more free when they die. That's actually what they're uh, looking forward to, being dead, even though they're not killing themselves either. Because you could think that if you're so looking forward to being dead when you're going to be free to travel around the universe as a spirit, then why wouldn't you want to get out of a human vehicle as soon as possible? I don't know. Maybe they have an explanation for that. I'm not suggesting anybody to do that, but but it's because we need these vehicles to learn our lessons and to be of service to the next level. Right now, um, we can be a lot of service to the next level, and that service is for our benefit. They don't necessarily need us to be of service. One way or the other, they're going to provide all humans with the opportunity to learn about Tiando, whether humans in vehicles or souls with human vehicles are are taking that task or not, because the next level is never limited by what any of us do, any humans do.
All
Okay, so I want to switch to this other screen. This might take me a minute to do it because I don't know a sophisticated way to do it.
right. Did you want to check the comments?
Yeah, I'll do that. I want to leave that up, and I want to put this up and this up and that up. I guess I can just leave it like that for now, even though it's not formatted as good as it could be. But these are two screens that are showing the path of the comet. The top one shows the United States, if you can't see it, and it shows the path of the comet that's no the eclipse, the total solar eclipse over the United States on April 8th, 2024, going from Texas to Maine, or maybe even Nova Scotia area. I don't think it's that important exactly where it is, as opposed to, that's just showing where you're going to see that it's total. But all the places around it are also going to see, pretty much the entire sun go away. But how dark it gets will be darkest along that pathway that it's demonstrating in that picture. And when I saw that, I thought I remembered this other picture here, down below that one, which makes it look like a big X over the United States. Well, I got that in 2017, actually. Right when I published my book, might have been right before that, because it was January of 2017. So it was after I published my book, because I published it in January 2017. Uh, it was actually somebody on a news station showing the path of the eclipse that was happening at that time, and then he put the eclipse that was going to happen in April of 2024 on the screen. And so it made this X over the United States as if the whole United States was being X'd out. And that's a period of 7 years. I don't know if that's related to the 7 years that Christians talk about, some of them as related to Daniel, but I don't know. I mean, seven is a significant number because the way the next level depicted it in the record books, and it represents the end of something, the end of a cycle. And like for instance, like when Moses gave instructions to take an oath for people that wanted to take an oath, he made it optional. And what you would do would be, the way I understand it is, I could be wrong about this, but you would restrain yourself from drinking the fruit of the vine, probably fermented grape juice, and you wouldn't cut your hair, so that, and I don't know if the women had equal rights to take this oath. It was the oath of the Nazarene, it was called, and this was during the Moses time. So so they wouldn't cut their hair, and so their hair length represented how long they had taken that oath for. And they wouldn't. I don't think they would have any sexuality either. And so that was an option. And and so they would, in order to take that oath, they would say it out loud 7 times. And they did that in a lot of different times when they wanted to really get something in their heads, to remember it. They would they had like a routine of saying it 7 times so that they'd remember something. And I think it's a pretty good technique, and it sounds like something T and Do might do to me, even though I don't think we did that in the classroom. Not that I remember talking about saying something a number of times. They did give us the task several times to memorize something, and but they didn't say how many times and how to memorize it. And if we didn't, they didn't have tested us. What was that? Yeah, what can you remind me again?
You have it written down
I know, but I don't have that in front of me now.
at what was it, 6 a.m. and 8 p.m.
Right.
that the bell would ring 3 times, and you would all sit down, and then Tall Odie would start. Now let us all say together, I am a member of the next level.
Yes. You would say, I am a member of the next level. I am only a member of the next level. I was sent here to do a task. I will.
I want.
I want to complete that task as quickly as possible until we sit together again. Or maybe there was something more to that last
There was.
statement. I did write it down. I'm going to go look for it right now. I can find it pretty easily, I think.
It's on your notes for tape 187, right?
Right. I've got a folder now
Or it might have been 186.
for all those notes. 186, you think?
I can't remember. Can't recall. 187 is the last one I listened to.
Well, I can search through
Oh no, actually
186.
you're listening to 188, so I can get in 187.
Yeah, I don't even have 187 here.
What do you mean?
I don't know. Maybe I didn't find it and put it in this folder.
Mm. Well, you have it written somewhere else too, from a blog post.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it so I can complete that orbit. That was something that we did. We talked about doing. I might have put it in another spot. I know what I'll do. I'll search for audio 187. AUDIO 187. Was 187 one of the missing ones?
No. So maybe it's 186.
Oh, wait, here it is. 188 AB minutes, 187 continued. 187. Okay, here's the pulling, what's missing, two kinds of suffering, down yourself, positive, what's next for me. Hmm.
It was at the very end of the tape. Literally the very end of it.
Maybe I just got it spelled wrong. Let me see, just put it in 187, see what happens.
Or why don't you go to your notes for 187 and scroll to the bottom?
No, I don't know where that file is. That's my problem. Or maybe it's still on the screen. Here's 188. Okay, let's see. Um, oh, darn. Every time I try to search for things, even though I make things better and
Every
better,
time.
well, no, not every time. Oh, it was 186. Okay, here it is. Um, oh, yeah, so Doe says we're going to have a chorus. And the chorus, what he meant by chorus in this context was we were all going to recite this at the same time. And Torlodi is going to actually be the one in the craft when this happens every day at 6 a.m.
And 8
He's
p.m.
going to stand in the middle of the house, the craft, we call them crafts, in a loud voice, but not so loud for neighbors to hear. That's the instruction. And he's going to say, now let us say together. And then wherever everybody is when he says that,
No, when they hear the bell ringing 3 times.
right, when you hear the bell ringing 3 times, you drop and sit wherever you are in the rest chamber or in the kitchen, the neutral lab, whatever it is. You're or you can lean on something.
No, he said you cannot lean
All right, you cannot lean on something. I told you my notes were terrible.
on something.
You should not lean on anything, but uh, uh, you can sit on a chair though, or on the floor.
And then
And
what to
in
say?
unison, right? I did write later. You sit and don't lean. My first note, I'm trying to copy this while I'm trying to type this while I'm listening to it, so I don't always get all the words right. But then I go back and try to fix them. Anyway, so what you're going to say when he says that is, I am a member of the kingdom of heaven. I am only a member of the kingdom of heaven. I was sent here to do a task. I want to fulfill that task as quickly as possible. I want to constantly remember who I am, what that task is, and its urgency until we sit together again. Now, he wanted to put an emphasis on the word only. So
T
I am
wanted to.
only a member of the next kingdom of heaven.
T wanted that.
Yeah, that's right. T said that. And he also, I said it faster than he wanted it to be said. And because he didn't want this to become like old hat. And they discontinued it. I don't know if it was days or a week after they started it, or 2 weeks maybe. I don't know exactly how long it was. But for that very reason, is he wanted it to have meaning. And that relates directly to the way that Jesus gave certain things to say. And like with the Lord's Prayer, he actually gave them the words of how to talk to the Lord. And he also talked about in the Sermon on the Mount, the way that's described, right? Uh, as saying that don't use vain repetitions. In other words, vain meaning, in my mind, meaningless. You're just repeating yourself and it loses meaning. And also, he said, when you pray, go in your closet. But in this context, he wanted it to be, he wanted other people to be able to hear you say it because of what it does to your brain and your mind and what the influences can test you with. Uh, um, so, I mean, so it's not really a brainwashing technique because they stopped, discontinued it. And then it was up to you to do it on your own if you wanted to do it.
Did you go to the chat?
Yeah, right. Sounds good. Okay, finally in the chat. There's very little in the chat. Kobe says hello. Old school Dave says Miss Kathy.
Yeah.
Casey says Mr. Beefy, whoever that is.
That's Mr. B.
Oh, Mr. B. Is that what you call him, Mr. Beefy? Okay, I didn't know that. He's got a nickname. Okay, then hey says Madison. Madison Lee actually, and when it recycles, it recycles. Exactly. We're not doing anything differently regarding that, but it might not be a bad idea to have a little bit of food in your, for whatever happens, not the recycling, but the things that is going to happen in the human kingdom. Because T and O, I don't know about T, but in one of the tapes we heard, right, Kathy, they talked about having a little stock of food.
Yeah, I think that was in the 90s maybe, and about having stuff to drink where meals could be drinks, like the pink drink.
Right, a pink drink or something, a protein drink was what we had.
But you didn't know if they had, they had gone on to implement
Because
that or
because
not.
one of those concerns was while we were in the classroom when we were living in the LA area and and we actually, um, yeah, the LA area, Orange County, I think it was, and there was an earthquake that was mostly happening up in the San Francisco Bay Area. And some of the parts of the freeway fell down and crushed a whole bunch of cars and people inside them and stuff like that. And Doe wasn't concerned about dying. What he was concerned about was the classroom being interfered with, so that students would have less of an opportunity to complete their transition, their changeover
Transformation.
into viable members of the next level for graduation. And the way that interference might take place would be, let's say you had an earthquake in the city and you were in the middle of the city. Well, you wouldn't be able to leave, and potentially gas lines can break, and there can be um, you might not be able to get any gas to even leave, and the highways will be packed with people trying to leave the area, and your water supply might get damaged, and you might run out of water because look at what's happening to people in Gaza, right? I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but I don't know what's going to happen here. And the thing is, it is escalating in a downward spiral, whether we think that that's a bunch of poppycock or not, or because it's been said for so many years, the end of the world's coming, the end of the world's coming. Well, one of these days it's going to come for somebody, and why not take a little precautions and be a little safe minded if you can, and plan a little bit, because most of the time we seem to get warnings. Like, I mean, there's been some bigger earthquakes happening in California in the last year, uh, up in the 5 range. There was one just like 2 weeks ago in California that was in, I think, in the fours, and there was a bunch of quakes in the Oklahoma area, which they think is because of fracking. Some of the people think that it's happening because of that, but it might also be from building underground cities, bases. I don't know, cities. I shouldn't say cities because maybe people get the wrong idea about how big they might be. I don't know how big they can be, but they have tunneling systems. They have ways of drilling tunnels. I mean, Elon Musk even has the technology for that. And I watched a tunnel boring machine in Pittsburgh when they were going under the river from the downtown with a new subway line they were making. It just so happens that that direction was where the new airport was as well, because they already had uh, another airport that wasn't in that direction and wasn't accessible by rail underground. Anyway, so and most people have heard about the Denver airport being. I mean, it has a lot of underground stuff as well. I know I was in the Denver airport. I know that's a fact, and they do have a lot of artifacts in there that are kind of strange. You know, and, uh, but that might be just kind of art that they want to have. I'm not trying to say that what's going on there, but it's not like a conspiracy theory to know that humans have been building bomb shelters for a long time. And who do they want to go into those shelters? They want their own families and their own uh, friends that they're close with. That's who they want. They don't want the general public to crowd them. So to us, it's like if you're in a location that's being affected by geological or weather related upheaval over and over again, it might be a signal to, maybe you should at least have a plan of getaway, or to move somewhere else. Doe felt that way. And so we moved out of the LA area because he felt like he didn't want to be trapped there. And the classroom would be interfered with potentially. Not that there couldn't be growth from it. There would be, but that wasn't the type of growth that needed to happen with the student body, and I'd have to explain that in other ways at another time because there's a lot involved in that. So then I'm going to go on to the next. Madison Lee, Heaven's Gate, says, love it. Uh, yes, I do too. John S. says, did T or Doe ever say if the next level gets involved in politics or influences elections? Were you ever in the class with Wiccanodi? Wakenodi, I think, is where that word came from, not Wiccan. I shouldn't say it that way, I don't think. Never really heard anything about her or her role in the class. Curious if you had any additional information. Well, let me first say about Waken Odin. I only met her in 1994, very briefly, because she wasn't even someone that was in the group that I was in when we were traveling around. So I can't even actually remember seeing her when the few times that we had a meeting for everybody in California when we returned there after giving meetings around the United States for about 9 months. So I don't know what I can say about it. I know I've been asked about other individuals that joined at that time, and that I really can't talk about much because I just don't know.
I thought Wakenodi had been there in the past and she left and then came back.
Yeah, maybe that's true.
I mean, I could be very wrong about that, but wasn't she the one that left and married a?
Oh no, that's Windody.
Okay.
Married a policeman. Right, and he came back. Right, that was
Yeah,
in
no.
the
So
80s.
then, yeah, no, then I don't.
Where's the Beyond Human Rio's book?
I am not 100% sure, to be honest with you. It might be in the bedroom.
Oh, yeah.
I know we both have a copy of it.
I'm gonna go get it because I can read about what Rio said about it. About
You know exactly where it's at.
yeah.
I think it might be in one of the center ones in the front. Like there's other Heaven's Gate books right there.
Uh, yeah.
But I think it's around there.
No, you should check it out. No, let's see. That was a black cover. I gotta look in this one that's broken.
It's not in that one.
I don't know where that book is. Not there. Not there.
I don't know that it's really, a good time to be caroling everywhere.
Yeah, I know. Oh, guess what? I think I found it. I found it. Okay.
The 11th hour.
Okay, I found the book. This is Rio's book. He sent to me.
Show them how skinny it is.
It's
Don't pay $900 for that.
yeah, it's very skinny.
I'm gonna be pissed.
And on my blog and in my book, I put I wrote I copied the things in it that I thought were most significant to me anyway. But one thing he does in the back is he has a picture of all the students with himself in there, and he gives their names. And
Is that your signed copy?
yeah, I marked it up so it's not like an authentic book anymore.
What do you mean?
Well, I wrote in it.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's not authentic.
Oh, right, it's still authentic, right? Where did he talk about everybody? There it is. There's Wikinodi.
I thought it was Wake and Odie.
Wakenodi, I mean. Yeah. You know what I'm going to do quick here? Make this bigger. Is it gonna be backwards though?
Anyway, just
Yeah,
read it.
it's gonna be backwards.
There's a picture of
Okay,
her,
so
so
it has a picture of Wakenody, right? Waken
like
is
awaken.
awaken, right? Was a sweet but rugged. This is according to Rio. Was a sweet but rugged tomboy type that could match any male vehicle with skill and ability. Shy at first, then excelled at a rapid pace. She was very helpful operating the backhoe while we built the fortress monastery in New Mexico. That was at Monsanto. She and Iris Odie were Nutrilab overseers during the final days of the class. And then he included her video testimony, but I don't think I need to read that. You can watch it in the exit video. So that's all I know about that individual. And what was the other individual that I was asked about?
Bernardi.
Was it Bernardi? Okay.
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay. UVW.
There's VR.
So I'm going to read Bernardi's because somebody else asked me about Bernardi. And he also joined in 1994. And it says he was 2 years in the classroom, but it's actually 3 years. I think that's a typo. So he joined, I think, at the same time as Waken Odie. So Vern, VRN, was one of the youngest in the group. He had left once and asked to return. A very intelligent computer programmer with a country boy sort of can do attitude that was a delight to be around. He also had trouble with the vehicle's sensuality and made the choice to get neutered. Afterwards, he was happy, almost giddy at the difference he felt. He was part of the Higher Source website business and had a good eye for detail. It shows this picture. All right, so I'm not going to go through everybody in this. That's according to Rio.
Next thing in the chat,
Yes,
because we want to wrap up, right?
yes, we do. Definitely. Okay, where is that chat? Okay, but politics or influences elections, yes, to some degree, not very much, very little. And but there were two times, once when T was in her vehicle and once after T left her vehicle, that Doe talked about Ross Perot as being a potential good president because he was a successful business person. And they thought that the country could use a successful business person instead of a politician. That was one thing they said, and they were thinking about having us even vote, but it was a little complicated because we were always trying to protect our security from the people that were looking for us, like culty programmers and investigators that some of the families uh, sent out to find us. Anyway, so we didn't ever vote. And then in the audio tapes, you'll hear mention something about that they didn't like the way Reagan was going and the things that he was doing at one point, and but I don't remember much of it because they didn't try to get into. Uh, I mean, Darth felt like, oh yeah, about Ross Perot. He felt like there was a space alien group that were trying to prove to the next level that uh, they had still had uh, desire or wanted to do right by the chief of chiefs, and uh, and some of them thought that by them being they were influenced by Lucifer to uh, go, to not follow procedures and disconnect from the older member, and they were resentful of Lucifer uh, doing that and them going along with it. So that was their way, and that the next level would take advantage of individuals that whatever they were doing wanted to serve, and so it doesn't mean that they're all condemned or anything. I don't know who's going to be recycled and who's not among the space alien souls, but the next level does influence people, but they don't do it the way that the space aliens do it. Space aliens do it, they force themselves on you, they manipulate you, they'll use deceit. And you can see that behavior in humans, the way that humans act, because they're manipulating humans as well. I mean, they're manipulating the people that are in power. Uh, Anybody that has a lot of influence over other people, uh, the space aliens are desiring to, or sometimes um, seeking to influence. I'm not saying who, okay, because I don't know who, but leaders of countries would definitely be high in the category, I think. Um, and potentially, people in high places in the entertainment business, and who knows? We don't know, but that's just the best I can do with that part of it. And but so their influence, movies is next level has a big influence over movies. I don't know if they do it now as much, but they certainly did upcoming to Tiendo coming public, incarnating. So even in the beginning of science fiction and all that, like in the mid 1800s, and even earlier than that, there was, H.G. Wells was doing things, and and then from then on, there was all kinds of science fiction writing going on, and uh, I'm not saying which things, but if it had a next level perspective, or if it was talking about things in outer space and things like that, uh, it's an influence from the next level, directly or indirectly. By indirectly, in other words, let's say a human, another way they influence, they provide their influence. They do it a lot. I mean, eh, all the inventions are generated because of the next level influence on humans. When humans are looking for solutions to problems, the next level can tune into that with their computer systems, and they can see exactly who is doing what, and they can give them ideas on how to do things. And so, like even the development of radio waves and Morse code, and I don't think there's any limit to it. They actually set up the planet so that there's a certain amount of information available to humans that they can tap into if they have a mind to, if they're inclined in that direction. So that's the way they do it, because then it's up to the person to be actually asking to learn something, like find a cure for cancer or whatever it is, or, or some way to fight bacteria, whatever it is. When they're looking for answers, the next level tries to help them find those answers, but they have to find it by their own capacity. and that's usually trial by error of some sort, right? They don't like, like shock them into belief. Right? That's what the space aliens would do if they could, or anyway, maybe that's enough said on that. Hyper Baroque says, "Do you really believe this doomsday shit, Sawyer?" Do I believe what doomsday shit, Sawyer? I'm not. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't talk about doomsday. I believe Doe talked about the recycling, and if you don't consider that doomsday-ish, I guess and the judgment of souls is part of T and Doe's teachings. So if you're considering that to be doomsday shit, then I guess I believe in doomsday shit. But but the way that many humans treat it, I don't believe in. Like I don't think that I'm gonna stock my. I'm gonna go get guns and prevent people from having food that I have stockpiled somewhere. If it comes down to that, um, but I don't know what's gonna happen. I think I'll probably be dead when that happens. This vehicle. Maybe we all will be. I don't know.
Goonies never say die.
Right. So, okay, so Hyper Baroque says, I pay attention to you and Kat because the two of you are sensible people. You're practically the head historians of T and Do at Heaven's Gate. You're both selfless individuals. But when I see you talking up all this concern about the perceived impending doomsday, Sawyer, I just see a man whose health is suffering from undue worry. The lessons you relate aren't like this. Damn it, I'm so sorry, man, but nothing cataclysmic is happening April 8th. And a heart, or somebody put a heart on it. Oh no, that's my response, a heart. I didn't have that response. He said good night then, so he's probably not here anymore. But
Did you say something cataclysmic was going to happen on April 8th?
no, I didn't say anything cataclysmic was going to happen.
No, I didn't
In
think I heard
fact,
you say that either.
all I did say that it might be the beginning of something, but I don't know what it is. I mean, there's a lot of things going on that are not escalating in a direction that seems very healthy.
Well,
Look
you
how
and I
much.
have had discussions about that as well.
Yeah, I know people have problems with it. I feel it. I know it. I don't like talking about it. Actually, it doesn't give me any pleasure to to bring up these subjects. But I feel like I can't ignore them when they hit me in the face. When things happening synchronicity. Uh, and I may be totally wrong. There may be nothing that's going to happen for years. I mean, what, what is happening. I mean, there's volcanoes that keep going off in Iceland and Italy and other places, Indonesia, Sumatra. Uh, um, there's more rumblings under Yellowstone than
But that's been happening
recent
for
days. Yes,
decades.
there's been earthquakes happening for centuries. You can look up the earthquake information and you can see all the big earthquakes that are listed. And yes, they've been happening for centuries. But if you actually look at the data, you will see patterns because I studied them because I wanted to know whether they were escalating. And I studied them and I studied them and I had all the years 1990s, 1980s, 1970s, 1960s, 1950s, 40s, 30s, 20s. I
Calm
went through
down.
all of it. And what I saw was a big increase in the ones that were being reported. And that wasn't because of new technology, because it's not that big of a technology jump to have those sensors. They have sensors in the ocean. They have them in a lot of places. that sense vibrations. When the World Trade Centers came down, there were sensors that went off in different places on the planet. Well, maybe it wasn't different places on the planet. Maybe it was just the United States that shed the planet was vibrating from that. You know, we're in a. I mean, so and the wars, escalating. Uh, if you don't think the wars are escalating, then you're not paying attention. That doesn't mean that it's going to be war the way World War One was and World War Two was. Uh, but it doesn't. There was a pause in wars on this land, right? But now, if you look at the politics in this land right now, and the way that the two opposing parties are at each other's throats with their claims and their objections, even though they're working together, really, and it's just for the people that they're polarizing them, for the vote, even if the vote matters anymore, we don't know. And but uh, the rhetoric is they're calling for people to be killed. They want to get rid of people in some cases. I mean, freedom of speech, censorship. I think if you don't see that it's at an all-time high in this country, and all this has taken place, and I can go through a list of all the things that have taken place since 2000. Um, it's very long. All the tricks that they pulled, to make to generate wars. If you were living in Iraq, the world would be coming to an end for you when the United States went over there and bombed the hell out of the place and did what they did.
Are you wrapping up?
Yeah. So I'm not, I'm sorry in a sense that you feel like it's not sensible talking about this, but I think that's maybe your response to not wanting to believe that it's happening. I could be wrong, but I
Well,
don't
that
want
would be the same kind of response that I have. Like I said, you and I have
to.
gone
Yeah, yeah, we
over.
we butt heads over this. Kathy didn't really want me to do this.
I don't
Well,
think that
maybe
you
that's
should
not the way to
say
say it.
that, but I just don't think. I think it's the world has been ending since we've been born. Since both you and I have been born,
Well,
people
that's like
have
saying,
always been saying that the world is going to end.
but that's like saying that we die from the day we're born. We're moving toward closer to death.
No, that's not. I didn't say that at all. What it's not like saying that. Literally, since the day I've been born, there's been one thing or another of people, groups, whatever, saying that the world is going to end.
That's because the next level stimulated
Every
that
every
understanding.
every Christian is waiting for the world to end because
Well,
that's when they get to go to heaven.
I
That's
know,
when the
but that's
second
the
come.
that's the
I'm just
delusion
saying.
with it.
Well, but I'm
That's
just
the
saying,
illusion
like
with it,
people
with
in
religion.
World War II probably thought the world was ending.
And
People
for
in
a lot
World
of them,
War
it
One,
was.
people in World War One probably thought the world was ending. People in the Ice Age probably thought the world was
And
ending.
it was ending for them, a lot of them.
I'm just saying it's been happening since the day this damn planet was created.
It's not a damn planet. The planet's a good planet. See, what Kathy's talking about, though, is true. It's because of the religions. But what Doe said was that recycling is a necessary part of the way the garden grows.
That is a very cyclic place.
Yeah,
Dang, look at it up
nothing lives forever.
where my baby's at. It's sleet and snow and
Uh,
rain.
yeah. So nothing goes on forever. And uh, so, you know, it's uh, if we think that everything is just going to go on the way it is
Mm-hmm.
indefinitely, we're living in an illusion.
Well, nobody's saying indefinitely.
Well, but when does it change? When does it change?
It changes when the world actually ends.
No, the world, the ending is a period of time. It's not a day. I mean, it might be a day because the next
Mm-hmm.
level, from some scientists that I've heard about, say that something could happen that the sun could generate so much upheaval so quickly that in 24-hour period, uh, the whole thing would be gone pretty much because of the way that the plates can move and the sun's cosmic rays and radiation, and who knows if humans will start throwing nuclear bombs around. You know, who knows what's going to happen with that.
Yeah, that's the world ending.
Right, but
If we all started spitting out nukes,
um,
that's
the next level can do things that make those nukes look like nothing. I bet you that.
well, I mean, I'm saying that if there is nuclear war, then pretty much humans die because the
Only in the
radiation,
areas where they, yeah,
but the radiation,
right,
like say, worst case scenario, Russia sends a nuke over here and then they send all their nukes and we send all our nukes and everybody else sends nukes, like that book that I read, The
yeah,
Bridge,
yeah. I know.
The
I just
Fallout
saw an
is what it
evaluation
ends
of
up.
that. Somebody did an evaluation of what would happen if they started shooting. What cities would they go for in
I know,
each
didn't we watch
country?
that
Blah blah
together?
blah. And then what would happen to the immediate city area for so many miles, and then what would happen with the radiation from that for so many miles according to the way that the wind blows and everything, and how it would affect the water supply and the food supply, and everybody would, a lot of people would, millions would die for sure, from that scenario, and doesn't mean that everybody in Chile is going to be dead necessarily, and
I'm
who knows
talking
where.
about catastrophic nuclear events
But
where
still,
the
if you're in a,
fallout would kill all of humanity.
well,
The
I don't know.
radiation poisoning would travel the entire globe.
I'm not saying that's going to happen because I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm not afraid of it because actually I'd rather die that way. Just drop a nuclear bomb on us, we'd be gone in a second. Who the hell cares, right? I mean,
Well, we wouldn't want to be in the area where it's not quick.
right, right, but I mean, Hiroshima and Nagasaki was the end of the world for those people. I think uh, there's extremes to this kind of thinking about this and making it into a big fear thing. But at the same time, uh, maybe if we were a little bit afraid, maybe we would want to talk to the next level more and ask if there's something we can do for them.
What else is in the chat?
Not that I want to promote fear because there's no benefit for me to talk about it. In fact, I get agita from it more than anything else. So Hyper Baroque says, all right, maybe I'm being too harsh. I trust your judgment, and that's why I felt it was necessary to criticize your speculation. Yeah, I appreciate that. I
You
don't.
see, he gets the shit from me too.
Yeah, I get it from her too. Yes, I do.
I'll take care of
And
it.
I get this when I talk about Jesus, even if I'm not talking about end of the world stuff. Just when I talk about Jesus in a positive way, I have all these thoughts around me that say, "Oh, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus! You've been talking about Jesus. All these Christians are talking about Jesus. He's nobody. He doesn't exist. He was never. He was made up. It was a story that was made up about him.
What was
Being somebody
Jesus?
special. Also about the kingdom of God. Every time I use that religious terminology, I get hit with, oh, the religions, blah, blah, blah. You think that you're a big shot in the religions or something. The same thing about Heaven's Gate. Of course, you're insane. You believe in space aliens? You're a jerk for believing in space aliens existing. If UFOs, that's ridiculous. Spirits running around, floating around, boo hoo, you know, I think that's ridiculous. I see if you're out in the public in any regard saying something that's not popular, even if you're saying something that's popular, like the rock stars and stuff, they get agita from people that are jealous of their what their earnings are or whatever, you know, or whatever reason. They just, there's people against everything, of course.
Yeah.
And if you're in the public eye, then you get more of it. And you have to build a shell, a protection, like it says in the record books, you need to build your armor. It's against the influences of negativity and things that is so um, well, all the members of the classroom had to deal with that. There was all kinds of negativity that came upon them all the time. If you listen to the audio tapes of T and Do talking, a lot of people will listen to those and say, yeah, they certainly were brainwashed. Look at the things that they were told to do and how to think and how to not use their own minds and to not trust their own judgment. Those are all terrible things to tell people to do to the point to where they even kill themselves. And so it looks like it's a total uh, um, but that's part of the territory that everybody is not in the same place. And so it's worth it to try to help individuals see what we know is true in T and Do's teachings, for instance, which is my motivation for this. Not that they told us. Well, I mean, they actually uh, were excited to see earthquakes, not because they like to see people suffer, but because they felt like that was a sign of something that meant the end of their task was coming closer. And when they would say that in the classroom, I was a little bit, you know, really? It's like you're really like enjoying seeing the earthquakes, but yet I knew where their minds were at, but I had to deal with the thoughts that made it into a human thing because humans are mostly focused on their vehicles as being their life. And there's a reason for that, of course, because we need these vehicles in order to learn lessons through them. But if you're a member of the next level, you know that you only need your vehicle in the human kingdom for as long as it takes to perform the task that you were given to perform. Because then when you leave that vehicle, you know that you're not going to be dead and that you're going to go back onto the spacecraft and they're going to put that soul into the new vehicle that was grown for them to wear or the one that you had before. But probably from doing a task like this, I would guess that individuals that had a vehicle in the next level before they came, which could have included some of the students, probably graduating to a more updated vehicle. It's like getting a new car that has a whole bunch of new gadgets and facility to it, as opposed to a Model T that, you have in the human kingdom. And uh, and it's that real from T and Do's teachings, and I believe that. I don't just believe it. I feel like I have experience with it. I just know it somehow. And so, so yeah, it is hard to talk about this, and I don't like it, but I
What's
don't regret doing it.
the next thing in the chat?
The Big Studio 2.0 says listening to old mate Marshall Applewhite right now. Really mind blowing stuff. Yes, it is. It is mind blowing stuff. There's no doubt about it. And it's if every audio tape that he and T made is filled with mind blowing stuff. I mean, it may seem very rudimentary sometimes. A lot of times it is. But the overview that they had for the reason why they were doing like menial kind of things focused on was because of the type of control that one needs to have over their vehicle's brain and mind uh, and behavior and ways in order to qualify to be a member of the next level, to evolve into this futuristic being that is more alive than we are because they don't die. They don't have all this stuff happening here, like, like animal behavior. They don't have that at all. They don't have to eat. They don't have to defecate. They don't have to, uh, you know, they don't have to die. They don't have to see other people suffering. Uh, so then he says, Big Studio 2.0 says, I'm very interested in the group and teachings. I'm on tape 6 now. Oh, cool. Yeah, I encourage you to, keep on listening to them. And if you don't get it, because there'll be tapes that you won't get it, listen to it again and maybe give it a few days, whatever, to absorb it. Because I have to do the same thing, even though I heard it when I was sitting with them. And then I've heard it sometimes with Kathy, and there's still things that when I hear them, it's like, wow, I know that I'm missing a lot in this picture. They didn't, every tape that wasn't filled with steps of new information, but was certainly filled with value,
Mm-hmm.
more value than we can even know what to do with. It's hard to comprehend. Will do, will do. I need to soak up the knowledge. Yeah, yeah, soak it up. Be a sponge for it. Yep, that's right. And so, yeah, that's a really good note to end on because maybe the next few videos, I don't know if I'm going to do another one like this because it's not my favorite thing to do. But but Kathy and I have been listening to a bunch of tapes that we haven't really talked about much. And so Big Studio says, "How's your day, night going though?" Well, it's been going okay, but it's time for us to end the night.
We took the day off.
Yeah, I took the day off from work. Both of us took the day off from work, and just because, you know, well, it enables us to do this, and so it's a good thing. All right, folks, it's been a pleasure, and I don't take any offense or I broke. I know I get all excited about it and defensive and stuff, um, because it is difficult. It's difficult for you to hear and for me to say. And
We have an interview dropping on Barrier Beyond.
we do.
Yeah.
Oh, what should I say about that?
That we have it happening.
Yeah, but I don't remember anything about it right
You are Barrier Beyond. Oh,
now.
they dropped it a day ago.
Oh, okay.
It's got 3,000 views.
Barrier Beyond.
Yeah, it's their latest video. Here, that's the channel name.
That's YouTube.
Yeah,
How do you spell that? I'll type it in here.
Barrier Beyond. I cringe to think about the comments. I like the screenshot that they did. first comment that I'm seeing was that interview was very troubling. That group of people were very disturbed.
Right.
Right.
Yep. Yep. See, that's it. We're called dangerous. We're called disturbed. We're called mentally imbalanced. We get it. Kathy gets it as much or more than I do because they think I'm already, brainwashed, and they think that she should come to her senses because she wasn't subject to what I was part of directly. So that's not easy to deal with because it's real. I mean, we get the thoughts from people. You know, the strains of humans are all interacting with each other. So negativity uh, is rampant, and some people in their brains they don't think twice about telling you to go to hell, or telling you that you're worthless, or look at it. It's throughout the whole society. You have that. I mean, even the people that generally act nice, a lot of times they're snapping at each other left and right. That's not next level behavior. And the next level doesn't like it. But they give us lots of opportunities to change. Yeah, well, there's a lot to talk about in that regard, but I'm not going to do it now. So let me post that. Barrier Beyond, BARRIER BEYOND YouTube channel. And uh, you're going to see a lot of comments probably that they might even get agita from it, for themselves. The people that interviewed us were very nice. And I don't think they were just being nice, just to, but you know what happens a lot of times. I've experienced this, and I think Kathy probably has also. Is that when individuals are in the presence, not that we're anything big shots or anything, but it's but next level mind is powerful. And it influences other people, so that if you even if you're like talking with us, since we're so focused on T and O's next level mind by talking about it, and listening to tapes and thinking about things all the time, and because we have that, you can get different responses from it that are kind of on the extreme end in some ways, and one of them is like even thinking that you believe in what we're talking about, and then you leave that situation or that live stream or whatever it is, and you think, how could I have thought that was true? Gosh, well, what was I thinking? Am I getting mesmerized by those people? Because the influences that we all have around us and the strains of thought forms that are all around us, this is a big leap for a lot of people. But there are people that have been making that leap gradually over time, and so it's not such a big leap for them. So when they hear us or Tiendo talking, I'm not putting myself on the same level as Tiendo at all, but we got the mind from them. So if they're listening to a tape of Tiendo, or or Do, or students reading their material, uh, because they were taking their own steps to grow in terms of what they could recognize was true for years, even, it doesn't have to be years, it can be any amount of time. But the more time with it, the better it can, you know, be with us to where it generates growth of our open to what is true and what's real more and more. And even though we're surrounded by all the negativity and all the facsimile of the truth, to where, all of a sudden space aliens are this and space aliens are that. Maybe they're the creators, maybe they're not, maybe they exist, maybe they don't, maybe they, all the different things that are being talked about bombards us, okay? And that's with everything that happens. And, but for those that are willing to push through it by reaching up for the highest source we can imagine in the universe, even if you don't know about T and O, somebody when they're in distress in any circumstance, if they reach for that highest source in this universe, that they're looking for answers, they're wanting help, and if it's not like the last minute, like they hated the idea of the next level for their whole life, but then they were in a car accident and then they started to ask the next level for help. I mean, because the next level might not say anything at that point to them because they didn't show the next level that they were actually reaching for them. I don't know what situation would be for different people in different circumstances. So because they have teams that are observing everybody that's thirsty and everybody that's trying to grow in the best way that they can, regardless of whether they know about T and O or not. But if you do know about T and O, then there's a little more required of us. Actually, a lot more required of us.
I like the way you look at me. That's sweet.
I like you participating with me in the interview. Kathy's right there because she's got a lot. To, she went through a
Too
lot of
much to
growth
say.
before she recognized, the T and O information, and we all do. Everybody does. I did also before I met with T and O. I had a lot of things that happened that were challenging. Not as many as some people go through, I think, but anyway.
You got another comment
Hyper
there,
Baroque
George?
said, "I love seeing Cat, and you too, Sawyer. But to be fully honest, I really feel a closer mental and experiential match with Cat. She feels like a more natural superior to me, even though she speaks less. For me, the experience isn't like, how can I believe what saw a cat say? Was I mesmerized? Like a question. Then was I mesmerized? Question. It's more about who can I tell this to? Who won't turn me over to authorities?
Yeah,
Who
right.
will understand? Yeah, well, I relate to that. I relate to that 100%. I don't tell everybody anything, hardly, unless well, but then again, at the same time, I'm willing to take a chance on a positive.
Mhm.
And so when I wear this shirt that's got this older member on it, I feel like I'm naked. I don't know how I can say that any differently, but I feel like I'm exposed in a way
Mm.
that makes it very uncomfortable
Yeah,
for me.
there's in the beginning you didn't seem you weren't really excited about. I don't want to say excited, but you were apprehensive. I think about wearing it.
Yes, I was. And
But I just kept harping on you.
yeah, now when I start to wear the shirt that says, uh, has the Heaven's Gate, you know, what that was called the logo, even though it's a little bit different from that. Maybe I don't know. But and then it says on the bottom, "What if they are right?"
That's a good one.
I like that one because it's presenting it as a question, and people can look at that. And some people look at that and they compliment me on it, or they say they like that shirt. But then what they think about is, what if they were right? Was that Does that mean that you're saying, what if they were right to commit suicide? And well, I hate to say it. I mean, in a sense, because they were right about leaving the way they did
For them.
for them. That's right. But that didn't mean that for everybody that would be the case, because everybody was not in the same place as they were at, and the older member isn't here anymore. Uh, and so, and that was part of the prerequisite to leaving. So with him, but but at least it gives people the opportunity to look at it, and I'm recognized by some people. They don't necessarily say anything, but I get looks, you know, double takes because I've been in so many documentaries, and I wasn't that excited about showing my face to people in 1997. I mean, when I first heard the news about their exit, I was thinking, well, gosh, I don't want to be seen as a cult member, because I wasn't really in touch with anybody. A little bit. I mean, I was in touch with Riccardi a little bit, but I didn't want to go back into the classroom because I had lost that part of my mind, and but when they left, I knew that they didn't know what they were talking about in the media about them, except for the logistics of their leaving and some of the bottom lines from the tapes that they played a little bit about. But I knew that the story was huge, and they knew next to nothing, and I felt like I had to go tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to a payphone and I called Newsweek magazine and I called Times magazine. Time magazine? Yeah. And told them that I had been a member of the group and that I would be willing to give them an interview. And they said, yeah, we would like that. So I said, well, let's meet in a public place. And, I'll come there. And so I met with uh, them in each of different places at different times in a restaurant.
Hmm.
And I was careful about going there and coming back to make sure that I wasn't followed. And and then a friend of mine that was in the group, Justodi, who left with Riccoti the first time when Riccoti didn't succeed, um, I had been in touch with him for a couple of years before that, and he had a contact at 60 Minutes, and he said that they wanted to interview him and his daughter, and and he invited me, and so I had no money, so they sent me a limousine to pick me up, and I met them at a location separate from my house, and then they took me to New York City, and I ended up,
New
spending
York
3 days
City.
there in the city, going from one media group to another. And at that point, I just knew that this is something I had to do. Not had to do, but I wanted to do because I fully believed in everything that Tino taught. And it's just that I wasn't uh, ready to give my all again. Okay, so Hyper Baruch says, is it possible to transfer the ability of clairvoyance to another person to teach it, or to transfer the synaptic pattern in another way. Um, I don't know. Transfer. I think I
Well,
think that's happening. By our thoughts can do that, but the person has to be looking for it. Do you have something to say about that?
read it again.
Is it possible to transfer the ability of clairvoyance to another person? To teach it? Question mark. Or to transfer the synaptic pattern in another way?
I think Sawyer and I were just talking about how, well, we just recently switched to delivering passengers. That sounds weird. That sounds like we're having passengers get in the car and we're delivering their babies. No. Wait a minute.
That would be a YouTube video.
Oh, maybe you should
That would go
turn it a
viral.
little towards me because maybe they can't hear because of
Yeah,
the microphone thing
yeah,
on the
definitely,
laptop.
definitely. They're
Um,
gonna see you too.
I know. Don't
It's
look at.
okay. She's in the
Don't
background.
look at me.
She's fun. She's fine to look at.
Anyway, uh, so we were just talking about how we do Uber, and I've done Uber for 6 years before I met Sawyer, and transporting passengers, giving people rides. I did actually over 10,000 plus rides. And so that's over 10,000 people that I had in my car over a 6 year period. And when I met Sawyer, I switched to doing deliveries, and I'd done deliveries a couple times before just for a change of pace, whatever. But when I met Sawyer, we switched to delivery so we could work together, and we've been doing that for the last 2 years. And then now, where we're at in Savannah, which, if anybody has the opportunity to visit Savannah, Georgia, do it because it's a really cool place. Anyway, um, the work has been really bad. Like, really, really,
For food delivery.
really bad. Like,
Yeah,
Sawyer
sometimes.
went in 4 days in a row and made less than $100. He made $82 over 4 days. And that's sitting in town in busy areas and just getting absolutely nothing. So I said, well, let's
I
drive
mean, I would get
passengers.
requests, but it was like
It was just
six
terrible.
dollars for 12 miles,
Well, we don't
which
really need
means
to,
24 miles
yeah,
in
we don't really
return.
need to go into the logistics of it,
Yeah, but I mean, so
but
I wasn't taking those.
yeah, so I had my account switched to Savannah because I knew we were going to be here for a while, and I wanted the option to drive passengers. For Uber, you can do food deliveries anywhere in the United States except for New York City and LA, because they have different laws there for Uber. And so, anyway, I switched my market to Savannah, and so I started driving passengers, and I did Friday and Saturday night. And it was fine. It's fine. I like it. I don't know if I prefer it over food deliveries, but it's nice to talk to people and uh, connect for a short amount of time. But so Sawyer had some hesitation with me driving passengers again because a lot of the people are intoxicated or they're high, and I do have my addiction issues. I wouldn't say that I beat my addictions or whatever. It's always there in the background, waiting. Um, but it wasn't like somebody was going to get in my car with a drink and I was going to say, "Give me that," and slam it, you know. Um, so I was really exhausted after working Friday and Saturday. And like I don't know, I felt like maybe I might get sick because I was so just like worn out. And then Sawyer worked Sunday and Monday, right?
You mean deliveries? I mean, people?
Well, you went in on Sunday and worked, and did you is today Monday?
Today's Monday. Well, it's Tuesday now.
Tuesday now, but it was Monday
Yeah,
yesterday.
yeah.
Because we didn't
So it
take
was
a day
Sunday.
off. It was
Sunday that I
Sunday.
did
Sunday
passengers
he went in and did passengers, and I was
for the
like,
first time, really.
yeah. See, I was like, see, it's not bad. It's not bad. But we were talking about how you can feel to a certain degree what people are thinking. You can feel what they're thinking about your car and you and you know just whatever in general. You can just kind of get, I don't want to say like, it's like they're passing their thoughts to you, and we are likewise doing the same for them. So I think that it is a possibility if you had a strong energy and a strong thought intention, that you could potentially pass that to another individual if that individual was receptive. So, like, I wouldn't encourage this or anything, but like, say, a child, you want to impose your will upon a child, right? You could probably manage to do that if you had strong intention and knew how to direct your thoughts a certain way. There's also physical things that you can do to influence people to do what you want them to do. Like I was telling Sawyer, and I'm talking about this in the context of, not like anything negative or, you know, manipulative, but more like as far as like picking up passengers in the car. I don't want them sitting behind me if it's a single person. So how I get people to go in the door that I want them to go in is that's the side that you pull up on. You pull up, even if you're facing the opposite way when you come in. If you see them on the other side of the street, flip a U-turn so the passenger side of the car is on their side. So they have to go in that way. If you pull up where the driver's side is on the car, 9 times out of 10, they'll sit right behind you. So it's just little subtle physical things that you can do to influence people to do what you want. Like if I don't want anybody sitting up front, I put something on the seat. And they might open the door and go, oh, and then shut it and then get in the back.
Yeah, but that's like an obvious kind of physical thing that you do.
Right.
People do
Yeah.
all the time, right?
So
But
mental
in terms of what
things.
he's talking about, like I think a better example in my mind might be, not that that's not a good example,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I think more specific to that, I experienced with Kathy when we first got together. I think I experienced more understanding about how we can react to thoughts from other people
yeah. Mm-hmm.
um, with Kathy than I had before that ever in my life. And like one of the things that Kathy would do, since she's a professional driver, she's been driving, Uber driving for many years. And probably even before that, she probably had this characteristic of, she's not a slow driver. She's kind of on the, get up and go and get to the place, and
I'm an aggressive
she's
driver.
an aggressive driver, and so we'd be on the highway, and she'd be wanting to pass everybody pretty much, for various reasons, because sometimes she would have reactions to the other drivers that I was not feeling. I wasn't tuning into that, and sometimes I think they were actually accurate reactions. And I saw evidence of that. That she was perceiving what other people were thinking while they were driving. And I've got a little bit of that, I know, but and I think I've got it more now. I recognize it more now after the fact, now that I've been with Kathy, because we would come up upon somebody and she'd be like with her finger, she'd be telling that person to move over out of the left lane so that she could pass. And they would do it. Now you could say it was coincidence, but I don't think it was coincidence
He saw it
sometimes.
happen way too many
Yeah, it
times.
was. And I mean, sometimes yes, the
It is
person does
coincidence.
want to move over when they, especially if somebody gets too close to them, they're going to be aggravated by it,
Yeah.
and they're going to want to move over. But I think sometimes what happens is that thought goes to them, and even though they might have been distracted at the time, they all of a sudden decide to look in their mirror and they see a car back there, and so they speed up or they slow down and they move over.
Mhm.
But when Kathy started to do that, and I saw her doing that, the way she was doing it, it was like she was directing that flow. And I said to myself, well, you know what? I think you are doing that, even though I didn't have personal experience with that. I didn't think I did. But then I realized that I had had personal experience with that. Now, let me move over to T and Doe, because I'll tell you about an early experience they had in the early 70s when they had just awoken about, I don't know if it was a year time that they were together or more. And they were driving on this like mountain road, maybe in California somewhere. And this car came up behind them and was like honking at them and, obviously like tailgating, wanting them to, to get out of the way. But there was nowhere to pass and there was nowhere to pull over. And so T and O just didn't have any choice but to just go the speed they were going safely. And and then they then the people got to a place to where they could pass them, even though it wasn't that safe, and they did. And as they passed them, they gave them the finger to T and O. Okay, and T at that point worried for them that they're doing that was going to be difficult for them. Something was going to happen to them, and no, and they got a little further up the road. They were off the road on the side of the road. They had crashed off the road. I don't think they were dead or anything, but um, now Tiendo also said in a recent tape that we listened to that they can um, that people can react to them in a negative way that they would never have reacted to somebody else in that negative way because of their mind. People don't know how to handle it. Now, I don't think we're in that category because we don't have near the kind of mind that T and O had in their vehicles
Not
and
even
around their vehicles.
1%.
No, probably not. Probably not. And but that doesn't mean that each human being doesn't have their own type of power in that regard to where you can influence somebody else. But see, the next level doesn't want to influence somebody else if they don't want it
Right.
and waits for them to ask for that influence, ask for that help. That's
Mhm.
why, you know, uh, we don't, try to tell everybody that you must believe in TNO, you must do this, must do that. That's that's not our that's wrong for a member of the next level to do, or a student like we are. And but the more we the more we hear TNO's information from their mouth or from reading it, that is influencing us. Whether we, I mean, if we listen to it and like there was this guy that would come to my blog and he would always be insulting to me and telling me I'm crazy and Tiendo were a bunch of baloney and blah blah blah. Okay, and I would, respond to him and give me specifics, whatever. Anyway, so he ended up getting the audio tapes because I was sending them to people on you know, on a regular basis, the ones that I had from Rick Odie for years. And so he got a hold of them. I don't know if I sent them to him or Carlotti sent them to him, or he got them from Rick Odie some point. Anyway, however he got them, he listened to those tapes and he came back and said he didn't see. Uh, he thought that T and Do were good people and that they believed in what they believed, but they were just disturbed in their minds. They were, but they weren't harmful to anybody. So, so he listened to that information, but he didn't get hardly anything out of it because he didn't want to get anything out of it. He was looking for dirt right from the beginning.
Right.
And so he got what he wanted in the sense of thinking that they were deranged. They believed what they believed, but it was deranged. And that's the way the public is. That's the way a lot of people are. And yes, we can influence others. We can transfer our mind. Thoughts are frequencies,
Yeah.
and thoughts. The next level can pick up our thoughts if they want to, but they don't invade us. They don't want to know our thoughts unless we want them to know our thoughts. And then they will, when we direct our thoughts to them, they will pick up our thoughts because it's a radio wave. It's not like some mystery, really. It's radio waves, but it's part of the radio spectrum that humans don't know how to decipher or interpret because the next level hasn't given them the ability to develop that technology. That's the only reason. They don't have the ability to detect that technology because the next level wants to have the ability to communicate with people and not be interfered with by the lower forces. Now, they did say in the very beginning that to communicate with the next level, you needed to project your desire for information, for the truth, for whatever it is that you're asking for, to the highest source you can imagine in the universe, to the stars. They would say where the stars are, the deep space, outer space. And by doing that, you're actually preventing the lower forces, the space aliens and the humans, from actually picking up your thoughts and trying to answer them. Because you see people uh, like we've been watching this show on TV where this woman is in some hundreds of years ago is saying that she was talking to God about what she wants, and then she gets a sign of the light shines on a crucifix, and she thinks that was an answer, and so now that God's going to give her everything she wants. She's in communication with God all the time, and yet she's not open to what the true God would say, and she's receiving information from the false gods. And everybody in the human kingdom has been bombarded by the thoughts from the false gods. They've programmed us all. None of one of us is without that programming. Their thoughts are powerful. They're more powerful than humans because they were once in the membership in the next level with a next level vehicle of some kind on spacecrafts of some kind doing elementary tasks. So they know how the garden, Tiendo would say, they know how the garden grows. They know that spirits are real. Discarnates are real. I mean, I had experiences with spirits several times. Kathy's had a number of experiences with spirits. And so have I after the classroom. but I didn't have any really before that. But I believed it was possible. I was with people that said they were having experiences with spirits, and I didn't doubt them. So that the sense that they were telling the truth, and I just wasn't able to perceive what they could perceive, even seeing spirits, um, was something that I had in my soul, I guess, or or the mind of the strain of mind that this vehicle is attached to. This mind is attached to. The mind of the vehicle is attached to. The mind that's around this vehicle. Because that mind isn't, it's only attached to this vehicle because, um, well, I don't know if the next level makes that happen or if it's just common interests that makes that happen. Because Tiendo talked about it that way. That discarnates, when they die, what they want to do is they generally hang around the people that they formed a family with or formed a relationship with. Has things in common with. So, like, let's say you were a flute player in the orchestra. Then, when you died, you would continue to want to play flute. And so, that program, it's like a plasma program. It's actually got structure to it. It encompasses everything that individual experienced when they were born and everything that came to them in that vehicle from their mind strain of other individuals inside or outside the vehicles, and everything that came to them through their flesh connection, their ancestral connection, in the way that they develop skills and everything that all became part of that baby. And then the parents and the society ended up influencing that baby, and the choices that baby made through its growing up and the experiences that it had either accepted certain things or rejected certain things, or some things were just put on the back burner. I don't understand that. I don't know about that. I'm not interested in that. And so they built their mind by what they chose to fill their mind with. And if it was garbage, then their mind became filled with garbage. But if it was wanting to know the truth about things, the next level has an interest in providing that to those individuals because they can see that desire in humans, in the minds. And they can then see to it that that human vehicle with that mind associated with it has exposure to more of the true information, whatever age that's in. And that's why somebody will find themselves watching a T&O or a Heaven's Gate video where Marshall Applewhite's, as the way they see it, is talking, and they think well, that's really weird. I don't know, but then they see it again a month later or a year later or whatever, and they think, well, that's interesting. A little bit about that. I wonder what else there is about that. It's because the first time they watched it, even though they didn't know what was happening, they got a little bit of that in their mind. If they didn't outright reject it and say, I can't pay any attention to that, I got to stay far away from that. Because my preacher told me that if you see Marshall Applewhite talking, that's the devil. Especially if he talks, that Bonnie Nettles, she was into astrology. And astrology is from the devil, so therefore they're both from the devil. And so if you even give them the time of day in your mind, then you're going to be sucked into that and you could be going down the road of Satan. So for the people that accepted that from their congregation, the preachers or whatever, then they remained in that condition and they may never actually outgrow that. Now, someone like Kathy, for instance, was exposed to Christianity at a fairly young age, in her early teens, I believe, in a big way, and and she wanted to believe in it, and 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 so she would end up going to the Bible studies or whatever, and being with the youth pastor who was really nice to her and everything, and and he would say things, and she would say, "Well, I don't know that what about that? What about Judas? Was Judas really bad? And what about this and that? She would have questions that other people weren't going to have because of the mind that was developing with that vehicle, which might have been because the next level thought that that vehicle may be useful for a soul to come back to have a relationship with, so that it could wake up that vehicle to actually becoming a member of the next level by gravitating to T and O's material. And so, but before that was going to happen, she had to go through a bunch of experiences that pretty much told her what not to believe in. And what wasn't any good, really. It wasn't going to lead to anything that she wanted it to lead to, hope things would lead to. So she got into Satanism and,
I didn't get into
well,
Satanism.
not into it, but she, looked at it, and witchy, what they called witchy thinking and behavior, right? And and not that she was actually casting spells on anybody. I don't think you were doing that, but maybe in
Yeah, I was.
you were okay. All right, so she was dabbling in that material, but it wasn't enough that satisfied her. But some people will get into that, and they will get glued into it. And some people will get into different things of working with spirits and think they have a spirit guide, and that the spirit guide saved their life. I know because I've talked with people about this that experienced this. There was one person that would come to my live streams years ago and ended up chatting with me a lot about what she experienced, and that she had the spirit guide, and that she felt like she owed that spirit guide her life, literally, and that she couldn't go back and tell him to take off, or her, or whatever the spirit guide was.
Well, somebody in the group was like that too, right? T and O were talking about it on a tape.
Oh,
Andrew, somebody named Andrew.
oh yeah, right, Andrew. I never knew him. I think I saw him a few times, but I never. Yeah, right. Do you want to say any more about that?
I don't think they can hear me, so I'm
Oh, I
not
can
gonna.
turn it again.
No, it's okay.
All right.
Somebody just called me a groupie, so
Oh, really?
yeah, it's all right. I deleted their
See, that's the kind of
message.
thing that uh, some people just can't handle it. They don't want to handle it. It's too difficult. It's too big of a leap to take. So that what they do is they strike out. They say stupid things, or they insult people. You know, there's no group,
Yeah, he
so there's
said I
no.
was a groupie and I abandoned my kids.
Well, she did not abandon her kids. That's ridiculous. Kathy only has one daughter, and we she's in touch with her daughter all the time. Her daughter is over 18 years old and very independent. Kathy raised her to be very independent minded. I witnessed it because I lived with them both for about a year, and so there's no truth in that. I don't know where you're getting those ideas. That's a lie. You shouldn't say things that are lies. It's bad. Bad boy, if you're a boy.
Yeah, I was. It's probably that guy that has been a dick to me multiple times.
Yeah, maybe. But so Hyperbrook says, I get it. I have no experience as someone perceived as a next level person. I prefer to be seen as an ordinary and nondescript person. I already know how to teach clairvoyance. I was just asking. All right. And that's why I like listening to you two. You care about the entire range of experiences, including metaphysical and even the supernatural. You don't discount your experiences. I understand I also studied right hand and left hand paths
Mm.
and Hinduism, Buddhism. I made a Taoism support group for a while and studied Catholicism, Lutheranism. It's all valid. Yeah, I would say that it's all got its validity, but it's also got its misinformation
It's 3:30.
characteristics. But yeah, all right, folks. I hope this has been a useful. I mean, there's a lot of other examples we could bring into it, but we could be talking here for another hour or two, and I think we're kind of exhausted. So, good night, folks.